Buckingham Palace. Looking from the outside, it has never been so quiet and majestic. But ladies and gentlemen, do not let that glamour deceive you. Behind those closed gilded doors, a real earthquake is shaking the foundations of the Windsor dynasty. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we have an urgent royal news bulletin, and it is darker than anything you have ever read in the papers. A series of top prestigious newspapers in London are simultaneously raising a question that makes the whole of Britain hold its breath: whether the monarchy is on the verge of collapse. Look at these latest photos. King Charles, the monarch who recently took the throne, now looks visibly thinner in the fiercest battle of his life, a life-and-death battle with health issues. Meanwhile, the entire weight of the crown is now crushing the shoulders of his successor. Prince William is struggling to shoulder a massive workload, facing pressure that none of us can imagine. He is completely alone. But here is the real media bomb. Right in the middle of this boiling point, Queen Camilla suddenly disappeared from the public eye. A mysterious absence. We must ask if this is simply exhaustion reaching the red line, or if we are witnessing a tactical retreat, an irreparable hidden rift among insiders. We wonder if this is the end of an empire, or just a tearful stepping stone for a historic transfer of power. Before we dive into the darkest secrets behind the palace today, I want to hear your opinion. If you are a close follower of this dynasty, let me know what you think is the real reason Camilla left right now. Please comment number 1 if you think it is exhaustion from pressure, or comment number 2 if you believe there is an internal war for the throne being hidden. Leave your number in the comments section right now, and let us uncover the truth. Let us be honest with each other. The history of the British royal family has always been written in blood, sweat, and hidden tears. But what we are witnessing right now is not a traditional power transfer. It is like a forced death in terms of time. As King Charles officially retreats to his private estates to face the most grueling treatment regimen of his life, he has left behind a massive power vacuum right in the heart of London. And the world can only call upon one single person to fill that deep hole: Prince William. But the problem is this: no one, including William, was prepared for this scenario to happen so soon. For decades, Queen Elizabeth II reigned with extraordinary health, creating an illusion that the crown is something eternal and stable. The sudden physical collapse of King Charles has dealt a fatal blow to the psyche of the entire United Kingdom. And William, from the position of an heir in an internship period, is suddenly thrown straight into the eye of the storm. He is no longer a spare prince. He is, in fact, having to act like a king without a throne. Look at the numbers, because numbers never lie. If you dig into the court circular, the ledger recording every move of senior members, you will see a chilling truth. In previous years, when the Queen was still alive and King Charles was at the peak of his performance as a prince, William maintained a workload that could be described as comfortable for an heir. He attended an average of about 150 official events per year. Those were ribbon-cutting trips, charity tea parties, and perfectly scheduled international tours, allowing him time to rest and protect the privacy of his small family with Kate. But right now, that normal regime has been torn apart. Internal sources from Kensington Palace leaked to the American media that the expected schedule of William this year has been pushed to over 300 events. Let us stop for a second to think about that. It means his frequency of public appearances has doubled. Almost every day, William has to face camera lenses, shake hands with countless diplomats, and read mountains of documents in the government red boxes that are originally meant only for the king. He is having to shoulder the share of work of his father while dealing with massive pressure from the public, who are desperate to see a symbol of stability. This is not just a job. This is a machine that crushes physical and mental strength. But perhaps the thing that uncovers the truth most clearly does not lie in the numbers, but in the body language of this prince. Any behavior analyst can recognize a terrifying transformation in William over the past few months. Remember the image of William a few years ago. There were always radiant smiles, relaxed postures, and witty jokes with the media. He always had his father standing like a giant shield, protecting him in the front. Now, when that shield is removed, let us see what we have. In recent state receptions, William looks like he is wearing an invisible suit of armor. His smile no longer reaches the corners of his eyes. His jaw muscles are always clenched, a classic sign of extreme stress and repressed emotions. When walking, his strides are longer, faster, with his hands frequently clenched or gripping the hem of his suit jacket. That is the body language of a man trying to keep everything from falling apart. He is entirely alone at the peak of power. There is no brother Harry standing beside him to share the burden, no father to lean on, and even his beloved wife Kate is having to step back to protect her own health. And that loneliness has forged a completely new William. Behind the closed doors of the palace, royal staff are whispering to each other about the emergence of a shadow king. William is no longer waiting for permission. In recent months, we have seen landmark independent decisions, showing his unprecedented level of control. From personally filtering the personnel list of the palace, firing unsuitable assistants, to firmly making strong diplomatic statements on global issues, areas that King Charles previously always cautiously avoided, William is establishing a micro-reign of his own, even while his father is still reigning. Some analysts comment that William is carrying out the most ruthless damage control campaign in the modern history of the dynasty. He is building a firewall around his family, discarding all the clutter of the old royalty to keep this machinery surviving through the storm. He is proving that he is not just an obedient prince, he is a decisively ruthless leader when necessary. Clearly, Prince William is exhausting his strength to keep the crown from falling off the head of his father. He is doing exactly what an heir must do in a matter of life and death. But if William having to shoulder all responsibilities is completely understandable and logical, we must wonder why the closest companion of the king, Queen Camilla, suddenly disappeared from the public eye in such a mysterious way. When mentioning a monarch who is seriously ill, normally the whole world would expect his spouse, the Queen, to be present at his bedside, or at least become a symbol of resilience in front of but Camilla does not. Her sudden disappearance is not merely a big question mark, but it is truly a ticking time bomb in the heart of London, tearing apart all efforts to maintain the stable image of Buckingham Palace. People are asking whether it is a rest or a strike. That is the question every newspaper from Britain to America is frantically trying to answer. To understand the severity of the matter, we need to rewind to the final days before Camilla disappeared from the public eye. Remember the early stage when the news about the illness of King Charles and the mysterious surgery of Princess Kate broke out at the same time. For a brief moment, the entire royal machinery seemed to be left for Camilla alone to support. At the age of 76, she had to perform up to 13 official events in just a few short weeks. The press recorded images of her appearing alone at churches, charity parties, with forced smiles and eyes clearly showing exhaustion. The royal public relations team at that time tried to turn her into a reluctant savior of the dynasty. However, just as public opinion began to give her a certain amount of sympathy, an announcement fell from the sky, stating that Queen Camilla would temporarily suspend all royal duties to go on vacation. Not 1 day, not 2 days, but 5 consecutive days of absence. 5 days. For an ordinary person, that is just a short vacation. But in the context of the royal family sinking in the worst crisis storm of the decade, those 5 days are an eternal void. The British media immediately fell into a state of extreme panic. News channels in America like CNN and Fox News continuously dissect this event. People question how a queen could pack a suitcase to go on vacation abroad, fleeing to a sunlit island, while her husband is having to fight a vicious cancer back home. It is so illogical that people are forced to believe that there is a much darker truth being hidden behind this vacation. Immediately, insiders and internal news-hunting experts began whispering to each other about shocking conspiracy theories. They wonder if this is truly physical exhaustion or a tactical strike. Many secret sources from the palace imply that there is a hidden war for the throne breaking out between Camilla and the younger generation, whose main representative is Prince William. Look at the nature of this relationship. William has never forgotten what happened to his mother, Princess Diana. Even though time may soothe the wounds, the distance between William and this stepmother has always been a cold boundary. Now, as King Charles retreats to the background, William holds in his hands almost absolute control over the activities of the royal family. He is resetting the rules of the game. He decides who gets to appear and what message is delivered. In that context, some analysts believe Camilla feels pushed to the margins, stripped of her vocal power right at the time when she is supposed to be the main spokesperson for the king. That 5-day vacation, according to this conspiracy theory, is actually a silent ultimatum, meaning, if you do not let me get involved my way, you can take care of everything yourselves. A perfect psychological blow aimed straight at William. The consequences of this move, whether accidental or intentional, were immediately reflected in the brutal statistics. You must understand that Camilla spent nearly 3 decades whitewashing her image from the most hated third person in Britain to an accepted queen. Before the crisis broke out, her public approval rating had edged up to about 47%, not a bad number for a scandalous past. However, this runaway vacation has destroyed all that effort. Flash polls on social media and forums in the United States and Britain show that anger is exploding. Thousands of comments criticize her insensitivity. The percentage of opponents who think she does not deserve the crown has skyrocketed to an alarming level. The public feels betrayed when the woman who once swore to stand by the king in sickness and in health chose to leave when he was at his weakest. The disappearance of Camilla has created a devastating domino effect. It not only forces William to embrace a massive workload, and not only turns the royal family into the center of toxic conspiracy theories on social media, but it also deepens the fatal weakness of the Windsor dynasty right now. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be the most powerful and famous man in a country, yet completely isolated from the real world? That is exactly what is happening to Charles. Buckingham Palace continuously issues carefully polished press releases, repeating phrases like, "The spirit of the king is very good," "The treatment process is progressing," or "The king continues to handle public affairs." But let us look straight at the truth and read between the lines. For anyone who has ever watched a loved one fight cancer, especially at the age of 75, you will know that it is a devastating battle both physically and mentally. His rare appearances are now staged in a sterile manner. A pre-recorded video is broadcast, a forced wave behind the bulletproof glass of the royal Bentley. King Charles is essentially under house arrest within his own strict protection. He cannot interact with crowds due to a weakened immune system, cannot attend state banquets, and most importantly, he is cut off from the energy of the public, the ultimate weapon of every king. The absence of Camilla at this time is not just the lack of a wife to hold his hand, it strips him of his only remaining bridge to the outside world, turning him into a solitary monarch fighting death in silence. And here is the truly terrifying part of the story, something no mainstream news outlet wants to cover too deeply. When a monarch is weakened and supreme power is dispersed, who is really running the country? Who fills the power vacuum when William is drowning in public events and Charles is lying in a hospital bed? Welcome to the world of the shadow advisors, the people whom the late Princess Diana once called by the haunting name, the men in gray suits. In the history of the United Kingdom, when the throne weakens, the bureaucracy will rise. Do not mistakenly think that Charles or William are personally writing every line of a press release or making every strategic decision themselves. Real power right now lies in the hands of a small group of senior courtiers, headed by Sir Clive Alderton, the powerful private secretary to the king, along with the Privy Council. They are people not elected by the public, who never appear on the front pages of tabloids, but they are the ones calling the shots in the entire media and political game. When the king cannot be present, it is these advisors who filter what information will be placed on his desk. They decide who is allowed to meet the king, which documents need to be signed, and what crisis scenario will be activated. Several sources leaked to the American press indicate that there is extreme tension behind closed doors between the team of William and the aging courtiers of Charles. While William wants transparency and ruthlessness to cut off the troubles, this group of shadow advisors wants to maintain the illusion of absolute control to protect the firm. King Charles, in his failing health, seems to have become a political hostage in the power struggle between generations of royal aides. Why is this war in the shadows so fierce? The answer always lies in one single word: money. We are not just talking about a family with blue blood, we are talking about a massive mega-corporation. The British royal family controls enormous assets, most notably the Crown Estate, with an estimated value of over $28 billion, not to mention massive private estates like the Duchy of Lancaster and the Duchy of Cornwall. Billions of pounds in revenue every year, thousands of employees, and lucrative tax privileges. Right now, the monarchy is facing unprecedented pressure from the government and the public. Inflation and the cost of living crisis in Britain are making people angry with the untouchable wealth of the palace. Politicians are threatening to demand reforms, requiring the royal family to pay more taxes and hand over more assets to the state. Amidst this boiling situation, the CEO chair of the royal corporation belongs to a king who is sick and unable to govern directly. Investors are panicking, the political sphere is watching, and the shadow advisors are frantically trying to protect this multi-billion-dollar fortune before it gets torn apart. Every media mistake at this moment, whether it is just a flawed photo or an ill-timed vacation of the Queen, could cost the survival of a centuries-old financial institution. The British royal family is walking on extremely thin ice. A king trapped in a glass cage of illness. A successor struggling to withstand attacks from all sides. A team of advisors panicking to hold on to power and money. The picture of the Windsor dynasty right now is darker than ever. As the old pillars of Buckingham Palace are shaking to the point of collapsing, all eyes across the globe, from London to Washington, are focused in one single direction. They are turning to the golden couple, the last hope and also the final line of defense for the Windsor dynasty, Prince William and Princess Kate. If King Charles and Queen Camilla are a cracking foundation, then William and Kate are the only remaining roof to shield this entire institution from a media superstorm. But what the mainstream press does not want you to know is that this roof is buckling under a horrifying pressure to the point where it could collapse at any moment. For over a decade, William and Kate have played a perfect media game. They gave the world the illusion of a modern-day fairy tale. Flawless smiles in front of the cameras, obedient royal children, meticulously designed outfits without a single wrinkle. They represent a monarchy striving to adapt to the 21st century. But for the American audience, who always crave to uncover the truth behind the glamour, we all know that perfection is the most ruthless mask. And right now, that mask is being torn off, revealing a brutal reality of exhaustion. Let us talk about Kate Middleton. She is not just a wife or a mother, she is the most invaluable public relations asset that the British royal family possesses. Her prolonged absence due to serious health reasons earlier this year was not merely a personal sick leave. It was a shock that paralyzed the entire system. We are witnessing the ultimate physical and mental exhaustion of a woman who has spent her entire youth trying to please the public, smiling despite every storm from her in-laws. When Kate was forced to step back to save her own life and health, the entire emotional weight of the dynasty immediately crushed the shoulders of William. Without Kate, William lost his anchor of balance in front of the public, and this has triggered the most primal instinct within the prince, the instinct to survive and protect his family at all costs. You cannot understand the recent cold decisions of William if you do not understand the psychological ghost that has haunted him his entire life, the death of Princess Diana. When William sees dozens of camera lenses pointing at his wife and children when they are at their most vulnerable, he does not see journalists. He sees the deadly camera flashes that once chased his mother into a dark tunnel in Paris years ago. The toughness, and even hostility, of William towards the press recently is not the arrogance of a future king. It is the scream of a man building a steel fortress, declaring that you can take away my time, you can take away my freedom, but absolutely do not touch my wife and children. However, the tabloid media is a monster that never knows when to stop, and it will bite back when starved. When William tried to lock down information to protect Kate, the press ruthlessly turned their backs on them. Data analysts have released a shocking figure. showing that in just the past few months, the volume of negative articles, nitpicking posts, and conspiracy theories aimed at William and Kate on social media platforms has skyrocketed by up to 40%. Think about that 40%. It is not just harmless rumors, it is a systematic psychological war. They dissect every pixel in a family photo, analyze every tiny expression of William, weave the craziest scenarios about a marital rift, and drag out unverified stories from years ago to tear apart. They are acting like sharks smelling blood. The contrast between the perfect image the public once worshipped and the pressured reality this couple is bearing has created a deep abyss of despair. They are forced to appear to reassure the public, but whenever they do, they are thrown onto the pyre of judgment. The golden couple is having to fight on a front with no way out. Behind them is a father battling illness, a mysteriously missing stepmother, and the rigid rules of the men in gray suits. Across the ocean is a ticking time bomb named Harry and Meghan, always ready to explode. And right in front of them is the spearhead of scrutiny from billions of people around the world. William and Kate are having to use their own blood and sanity to keep the roof of the dynasty from blowing away. But the limits of human endurance are real. Ladies and gentlemen, we are standing at a historical crossroads, where every decision made in the dimly lit rooms of Buckingham Palace will reshape the entire future of the United Kingdom. With a weakening king, a queen entangled in media troubles, and a prince carrying an entire empire on his shoulders, the question is no longer what is happening, but rather how this game of power will end. In America, when a billion-dollar corporation falls into a crisis, the board of directors will roll out contingency plans. The British royal family is no exception. Deep inside those gilded walls, the war rooms of the government and the royals are sprinting to prepare for the three most grueling scenarios. Let us break down the ruthless logic of each path. Scenario 1. A media miracle and the return of a fake normal state. This is the scenario the palace public relations team craves the most. King Charles responds well to the treatment regimens, gradually recovers, and returns to absolute power. The crisis closes. The cameras film the smiles again, and the royal family continues to operate. However, let us look straight into the reality of the psychology of power. When a person has tasted control, they will rarely let it go. William has spent months operating as a shadow king, resetting the personnel apparatus and making landmark decisions. Even if Charles recovers, this dynasty will never return to its old structure. Charles may keep the crown on his head and the title of monarch, but he will only be a ceremonial figurehead. Practical management, from finance to diplomacy, will rest firmly in the hands of William. It will be an unofficial co-reign regime where the older generation is smoothly stripped of power from the inside. Scenario 2. The constitutional nuclear button, the Regency Act being activated. If the health condition of the king declines to the point where he cannot fulfill his state duties, but he refuses to abdicate, the British government will be forced to use the ultimate constitutional weapon, the Regency Act of 1937. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a real law, an emergency contingency plan kept safely in the drawers of Parliament. Look at history to see the shock of this scenario. The last time the United Kingdom needed a prince regent was in 1811, when King George III fell into a state of madness, forcing his son, the Prince of Wales, to take over running the country for 9 grueling years. If history repeats itself right this year, this process will unfold in an extremely brutal and cold manner. Without needing the consent of King Charles, it only takes at least 3 of the 5 most powerful figures in Britain, including Queen Camilla, the Prime Minister, the Speaker of the House of Commons, the Lord Chief Justice, and the Master of the Rolls, to sign a document declaring the king incapacitated, and William will immediately become Prince Regent. He will hold all the prerogatives of a king without needing to hold a coronation ceremony. That is a legal transfer of power, but it has the appearance of a politically bloody overthrow, stripping all power from Charles while he is still breathing. Scenario 3. A crisis of confidence and a comprehensive great reform. This is the darkest nightmare that could wipe out the British royal family as we know it. Public opinion is a ruthless current, and it is turning its back on the palace. The ambiguous absence of Camilla, the hiding of information surrounding the illness of Kate, and the authoritarian image of William are creating a massive divide between the people and the royals. Historical data has proven that the monarchy is very fragile in the face of public outrage. Recall the abdication crisis in 1936 of King Edward VIII that almost collapsed the monarchy, or the dark week in 1997 after the death of Princess Diana, when the royal approval rating plummeted to a historic low and Queen Elizabeth II was forced to yield to the pressure of millions of protesters by bowing before the coffin of Diana. Currently, with the British economy stagnating, taxpayers no longer have the patience to pay tens of millions of pounds every year for an institution full of drama and lacking transparency. If this crisis of confidence reaches a breaking point, the British Parliament will intervene. We will witness a comprehensive major surgery, drastically cutting the royal budget known as the sovereign grant, stripping tax exemption privileges, and shrinking the size of the firm down to only the most core members. Magnificent palaces worth billions of dollars could be nationalized or opened entirely to the public to cover their own costs. William will take the throne not as a king ruling an empire, but as a chief executive officer of a heritage organization struggling to find a way to survive in the 21st century. 3 paths, 3 haunting endings. The chessboard has been set, the pieces are moving in the dark, and the clock is still relentlessly counting down. In this Game of Thrones, there is no room for weakness, and every wrong move could cost the collapse of a dynasty that has lasted for thousands of years. The future of the Windsor dynasty is hanging by an invisible thread, and the world is holding its breath, waiting to see when that thread will snap. From the dimly lit corridors of Buckingham Palace to the ruthless scrutiny of the global media, it is clear that the Windsor dynasty is facing its fiercest life and death test in modern history. We have together uncovered the hidden truths behind the glamour, a king alone fighting illness in a glass cage, leaving royal power to faceless advisors, a queen mysteriously disappearing right in the middle of the storm, sparking a series of conspiracy theories about irreparable internal rifts. And at the center of that massive mess, William and Kate are having to squeeze out their last drops of energy. They are forced to become the only fortress shielding a multi-billion-dollar empire on the brink of collapsing public trust. But there is an undeniable truth. Whether you love or hate them, the world still cannot take its eyes off this royal chessboard. For the American and global public, the British royal family is not just a distant European political institution. It is a breathtaking real-life, historical drama complete with schemes, pressure, and the ultimate thirst for power. Whether the future brings a smooth transfer of power behind closed doors, or explosive unwanted events tear apart the royal structure, history right now is recording the darkest and most dramatic chapters of the Windsor dynasty. We will continue to closely follow every smallest move, decoding every hidden signal to bring you the most naked truths in the upcoming videos. Do you believe William is truly ready to become the next king right now? Or will the weight of the crown crush him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. If you found this video opening up new and interesting perspectives, do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the most exclusive and mysterious information about the British royal family. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next eye of the storm.